Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and I have another series Saturday for you. Of course, we're still working on the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, and we just read book 8, which is Proven Guilty. So, I have been getting a little bit burnt out on this series. I am reading it kind of back to back, but I have to say that each book gets a little bit better so far for me, even though I am getting burnt out because of the repetitive nature of the plot lines. This one, though, was probably my favorite so far, just because we're really starting to get a look at the underlying plot for the series as a whole. I think at this point, we're on book 8. He's kind of laid the groundwork for a bunch of the characters and such. And so now we're really getting into the depths of the series as a whole, which makes me so happy because I like depth to my book. These books are really fast paced, really action packed, which makes for a fun read, but it doesn't make me necessarily want to keep going in the series when that depth isn't there. And so I really appreciate that we're finally getting to that point with this book. We've scratched the surface on some of the other books I mentioned before. Those are some of my favorite parts of some of the other books, but this is the first one that we're really seeing that something deeper is going on. Um, and it kind of sets it up for that to be a main plot going forward in the rest of the books, which it has been. It's slowly been building that way, which is funny because it's such a fast-paced, action-packed series, but then the series plotline has been kind of a slow build, which kind of is funny to me. But I have to say that I actually really enjoyed this one, and I'm excited going into the next one where I was kind of starting to drag a little bit with this series. So I'm going to talk about the overall premise of the series and this book in case you're not familiar with it. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more depth on this specific book. I'll warn you before I get to that point. So if you're not reading the series or you're planning on reading it and you don't want any spoilers, you can jump off at that point. But before I get into it, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a like, it really does help out the channel. And then also go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell notification if you haven't already so you don't miss out on a thing. But let's get into Proven Guilty. So the series as a whole just follows Harry, who is a wizard and a private detective in Chicago. And he contracts out to the police department. They have a special investigations unit that he contracts out to, but of course, not a lot of people believe that he's actually a wizard or anything like that, or believe in the supernatural. So he kind of faces a little bit of trouble with that. And, in the early books, he's just kind of struggling to survive, where we're not seeing that struggle as much in this one. Like, he's really kind of hitting his stride as far as what he does. But each book is really action packed, a lot of action scenes where he's fighting the bad guys and the supernatural and such. Most of them have kind of a double plot line and they somehow connect, even though they don't seem to in the beginning. They end up connecting somehow. And with this book, it's actually connecting some of the plots from all the books together, which again makes me really excited. I'm really happy that we're getting deeper into the series plot line. This specific book, it's Harry. He's kind of working with the White Council, which is kind of the governing law for wizards, essentially. And they're at war with some vampires, the Red Court vampires. And so that's kind of taking a lot of their resources and energy and such. And then his friend Michael's daughter reaches out to Harry for help. And there's also some black magic going on that he needs to figure out. So that's the overall premise of the series and this book in particular. I am going to kind of go a little bit deeper now. So if you do want to jump off, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do so. Um, but if you're interested, I'm not going to give anything too major away. So you can certainly continue on and learn a little bit more about this book. So in this book, at this point, Harry is actually a warden of the White Council. And if you're familiar with the previous books, Harry's kind of had a rocky past with the White Council. and so he's now a warden, but there's still kind of a distrust there. But again, they're at war, and so their resources are low, and they need everybody they could get essentially. And so that comes into play in a big way in this book because he's part of the council now, but at the same, or he's, a warden of it now, but at the same time, there's still that distrust there, and something happens that kind of involves the black magic that he kind of has to go stand up to the council in a way, and it also brings up things from his own past essentially, and it kind of sets you up for that right in the beginning with kind of what's happening in the beginning. You know that's going to come into play somehow, and it sets you up and you just don't really know how. And so throughout the book, he initially, he's trying to find this black magic that is happening in Chicago, and there's kind of this horror convention essentially, and that's kind of where the black magic is centered. And so again, just like the other books, very action packed, a lot of fighting and such. And I think with this one though, it seemed it's kind of hard because it's a fantasy, supernatural book, but it takes place in Chicago, so there's that kind of real world aspect to it. And in the other books, it just seemed like there was fighting and action just for the sake of having fighting and action. Where this one, it really seemed to have more storyline to it, and it played a part in what was going on later on in the book, which tied in. Like I said, most of his books do have like a double plot line, and you don't really see how they tie in until the end. And that's the case with this one. Like what happens in the beginning book was important to what was going on in the end of the book, but you didn't really see that. But instead of having the two plot lines going simultaneously, it was kind of, it led up to what happened in the end of the book, which I liked how he set this book up a lot better than some of his other books because it was a little bit confusing at times because it's like, okay, you got these two plots and they don't seem to connect, but because I've read several of his books now, I know they have to somehow, and you have them both going on at the same time, and Harry seems kind of stretched thin, where this one it was more kind of naturally leading up, and his investigative process took him each step to that point instead of, well, I have my attention here and my attention here, and and then it just like trains colliding essentially. So I liked how this one was set up, and it was a little bit different than his other books, which was refreshing as well. And then also some of the other books, what I really enjoyed is when Harry goes to the Never Never, which is kind of like a different, um I don't know what the word, I'm not a reality, it's the same reality, but dimension, that's the word I was looking for. It's kind of a different dimension, and it's where, the supernatural lives essentially. And so those were some of my favorite parts of the other books because it was more fantastical, which I like that. And so I really enjoyed that. And in this one, he ends up going to the Never Never, and he goes to one of the fairy strongholds, um, which, like, the Heart of Winter, which I thought that was really, really cool. And the way he painted that scene, and how it looked and everything, I thought it was really, really cool. One of my favorite parts in one of the other books was when Summer and Winter were fighting and that whole battlefield scene. I don't remember exactly which book it was in, but I really enjoyed that. And two of the characters from that specific book reappear in this book. And so this whole time he's introducing you to characters and kind of forming those connections, and it's building up, like I said, to the plotline for the series as a whole. And so I think this is the first book I saw glimpses of it in other books, and I got really excited because, okay, I think, the subplot for the series is coming to light, but then he would just kind of leave it, and the next book would move on to something else. And like I said, he was building those connections. And so it's funny because all the books are so fast paced and action packed, but the plot for the series as a whole has been a really slow build. So, but like I said, this is the first one where we're really starting to get deeper into it. And we saw that in the ending of the book as well. And Harry's, on the White Council now as a warden, and he's also has all those connections now. And so, like I said, you have two of the characters from the book where Summer and Winter battled. And so it's the Summer Lady and the Summer Knight. And they reappear in this book. And so the fairies and the Red Court vampires and then the White Council, those are all kind of coming together. And something that is happening is tying all the different cases Harry has worked on in the past, which again, we got a glimpse of that in one of the other books. He mentioned that there seemed to be a weird connection between all these, but now he's really starting to think about it a little bit deeper, and realizing like there really is something more nefarious at work here. And so I am actually really, really excited for the next book in the series, which is so refreshing because, like I said, I was getting burnt out on it because all the plots were very similar and you didn't have that deeper series plot going on. Like you were just getting glimpses of it. But like I said, this specific book really seemed to set it up. So I'm hoping he doesn't do like he's done to me in the past and, kind of give you a glimpse of that and then just kind of leave you hanging in the next book. I'm hoping this really has set it up and we're really going to see that series plotline come to light in the next book. And I've heard, that as you get deeper and deeper, it gets better and better, from a couple different sources. And so I'm really intrigued after reading this book, and I really hope that is the case. So yeah, I'm really excited. I already have White Knight is the next one. It's the ninth book in the series. I already have it out by my reading chair, ready to go, and I'm actually tempted to move it forward a little bit. I have some other books that I was planning on reading before jumping into that one, but I'm really, really tempted to move it forward. And I definitely want to finish this series this year, so I'm gonna try to be reading um multiple books of this. I'm gonna have to try to get 3 of these in a month going forward in order to try to make that goal. Just because we're already a quarter of the way into the year, and I'm only now on the ninth book in the series, and so yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to step up my game a little bit if I hope to complete the series this year. But I am really, really excited to see where it's going to go. And I'm really hoping that the series plot is more prominent going forward, which, based on how this book ended, I'm thinking it may be. So that's kind of my thoughts on Proven Guilty. I found it really enjoyable. I liked, again, the dynamic between Harry and Michael's family, um, Harry and the White Council, and just kind of Harry seems to really be coming into his own, and there's a lot more depth, it seems, which I sure hope it continues going that way. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. If you've read Proven Guilty and the rest of the Dresden Files up to this point, definitely let me know. Or, the Dresden Files as a whole going forward too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you agree that it just continues to get better from here on out, or if it kind of continues in the same tone as the first portion of the books. Definitely let me know without any spoilers, and I will see you guys next time. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.